Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another interview on the JayBee and Millie channel. Joining me is Millie.
Hi.
And of course Rhianna.
Hi.
And we have an absolutely amazing, incredible guest today. We are going to be interviewing David A. Goodman.
Hey there.
So thank you so much for joining us today. And I guess diving straight into it, my first question is, in kind of the span of your career, you've been an actor, writer, producer. Well, when you were growing up, was there one that you always wanted to do over the other, or was it always your plan to kind of be a jack of all trades?
I'm not really an actor, so let's just put that one aside. I'm not really an actor. I've gotten the opportunity because of how my voice sounds. I've gotten to do some voices on Family Guy. Seth MacFarlane, who created Family Guy, I think may have been the first person to point out that I sound like Ray Romano, the comedian. So there have been gags on Family Guy where I play Ray Romano, or because I might have pitched a joke and Seth liked the way I pitched it, so he wanted me to do the voice. So I played Jesus in a gag because of how I pitched the joke, or various Jewish people. Any event, so I'm not really an actor. So that was never. As a kid, I acted in shows, but I don't think I ever really thought that's what I wanted to be. I like to hide. I like to not be seen. So being an actor doesn't really go with that. But I think, being a producer also comes out of being a writer. That's the opportunities that I've had to produce have come out of the fact that I'm a writer. So being a writer, that was really the first thing that I wanted to be. It sort of happened, I think. I started in high school. I think I started to think about the fact I started reading books about writing for television. I was a big Star Trek fan, and there was a book about the making of Star Trek, and it talked about writing the show, and I suddenly found myself identifying with the people who were writing, using ideas, your imagination, and then also comedy. I was always interested in comedy, and so doing that as well. So I think it was always wanting to be a writer from a pretty young age.
And were there any writers, or perhaps, as you mentioned, maybe comedians that you watched growing up that you think had some type of impact on your career at all?
Yeah, I mean, Rod Serling, who created the show The Twilight Zone, that was I read a lot about him, and I very much enjoyed that show and the way he would do twists in a lot of his writing. Those twists, I don't know, you guys are awful young, so I feel like maybe you don't know what the Twilight Zone is, but it was a show that really was the first of its kind of like having these kind of great twists and science fiction. I was interested in science fiction, so all the great science fiction writers influenced me, but probably Rod Serling, and then Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, and the other writers who wrote for Star Trek. That was something that really inspired me, I think. And then comedians, when I was growing up, Steve Martin, who still around, still very funny, still enormously talented, but he started his stand-up career, became very big when I was in high school, and that his style of humor definitely was something I found inspiring and aspired to. I'd have never gotten close, but he had a real, and the first years of Saturday Night Live happened while I was in high school, and I think high school is when you really enjoy Saturday Night Live the most, if you guys watch that show. So that also probably influenced me as well, and then just lots of situation comedies and cartoons. I watched a lot of television when I was a kid. A lot. Too much. I watched too much.
Now you've mentioned some great writers, some amazing shows, and you yourself have gone on to write for many, iconic shows, one of which was Golden Girls. What was that like?
Amazing. I think you interviewed my old partner, Rick Copp, and Rick and I were young people probably around your age, young people, and we were assistants in New York. We were working for people, and we were writing together. And we, my boss, it was a woman named Gloria Banta, took our script and sent it to the Golden Girls producers, and they hired us. So we were in New York. They flew us to California, and here we were. I was 25, Rick was 23. We were very young and kind of wide-eyed and getting to write for that show, for these great writers who were writing that show, and then also those amazing actresses. I mean, I had grown up watching B. Arthur and Betty White on other shows, and here I was getting to actually write lines of dialogue, always much too intimidated to talk to them when I was working there. And they were such, it was a very heady, exciting thing to get to write jokes and then watch B. Arthur say your joke. And as soon as B. Arthur says your joke, it's not your joke anymore, it's hers. She was such an enormously talented actress. So it was a very exciting, nerve-wracking experience to get to write for that show.
Yeah, I imagine it really was incredible. And you mentioned there Betty White, sorry, after their unfortunate passing, you did an incredible tweet about how they still remembered you when you reunited on Family Guy. What was that like?
I still don't believe it. I mean, I still don't, the story doesn't even really sound believable to me, but it happened to me, so it happened. So I was it had been, I wrote for Golden Girls in 1988. This probably happened in 2006, 2005, so a long time afterwards. I was now one of the head writers of Family Guy, and we had, in our offices, we had a recording booth where actors would come in and record their lines and leave. And so guest stars would come to our office to record their lines, which was a great thing. I met so many incredible people over the years who've been on the show. And we wrote a joke for Betty White to read, and she agreed to do it. And she was sitting in our sitting area by our record booth. Somebody had told me Betty White's here, and I felt like I had to go out and say hello. Now, I'd only spoken to Betty one time the 2 years I was on Golden Girls. We only had one conversation, and it wasn't a very substantive one. I don't even really remember what we talked about. But I do remember talking to her. I think it was about the episode my partner and I had written. That was really one of her episodes where she was the central focus. Anyway, I walk up to her and I say, "I'm sure you don't remember me." And she cuts me off and she says, "Of course I remember you, David Goodman." Now it's possible somebody told her David Goodman was a writer of Golden Girls, he's executive producer of Family Guy. That could have happened. But the fact that she went to that trouble still also says a lot about her. Such a sweet, smart, funny, brilliantly funny woman. And that, that moment in time, she was, 90. I mean, she was not young. So that really, I mean, very sad that she died, but she also had an amazing life. So.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing. Like the fact that even if, like I said, someone told it, the fact she went that extra step must just mean like the whole world for you. And keeping on the whole Golden Girls topic, my mum loved Golden Girls when she was growing up, and I've recently started like binge watching it because I just love it so much. Did you have any inkling that the show would stand the test of time the way it did?
That's a good question. I think so, because it's hard to, this was not an example of a show that nobody watched when it was first on and then became something very big. Golden Girls was one of the most popular shows of its time, not just with the audience, but it won awards, won Emmy Awards. I think every actress won an Emmy Award at some point during the course of that show. The show itself won Best Comedy Series, and it was enormously popular. So I think that it's not really a case of something that, oh, nobody saw it and now it's still on. It was always really popular, and so it really doesn't surprise me that it would stay around, also because very well written show, really talented writers, and then those 4 actresses are unbelievable. They're just the best of the best. So no, I guess not. It didn't surprise me.
Oh, thank you. And you know, you mentioned earlier about Rick Copp, and we recently had the pleasure of speaking with him. And you two worked together on the show Babes, and then of course again for Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost as well. Did you two decide to partner up after the Golden Girls, or did you know each other beforehand?
So we knew each other beforehand. We were both basically working in New York City as assistants. We were friends. We worked at the same company. We both had an interest in television. An interest in writing for television. We thought we would do well writing comedy together. We got that first job together on Golden Girls as a writing team. And for 10 years, the first 10 years of our careers, we worked as a writing team. So everything we wrote together. In different forms. Sometimes we'd write every word together. Sometimes he would write something and I would rewrite his script, and vice versa. I would write a script and he would rewrite it. But we did everything. We were a writing team. And Rick's, as you, I'm sure, experienced, a great guy, such a funny man. We had a great partnership.
Wow, I mean, that just sounds incredible. It's always nice working with someone that you feel like, I don't know, kind of you blend well with, and that's something that we've discovered personally here doing these interviews. You know, it kind of makes a difference, you know, who's on here and who's kind of vibing. It's amazing. And I suppose kind of shifting gears a bit to almost the other extreme of movies and television, which is the Fred movies, because when I first found out that they were doing Fred movies, because that was based on, I believe, the first movie ever to be based on a YouTuber personality, like a YouTube star.
Right.
So for that movie, were you just given a brief on what this character was about, or did you have to, say, go back and watch some of the old clips or videos?
Well, I mean, it happened. I wrote the movie at the height of Fred's popularity. And so Lucas Cruikshank is the man who created Fred, who plays Fred. And I didn't know a thing about it. I was not somebody who was watching Fred videos, and I don't think even my kids knew what they were at that time. But I have an agent, and he said they're interested in developing this as a movie. And I watched one, and I just couldn't stand it. I found it really and I told my agent, I'm not interested. And then he said, no, look at how many people are watching it. And you look, and it's like 50 million people, 50 million views. What? And so then I had to take another look. And so then I started watching, and I watched about 20 of them. And I realized that Lucas, the creator of Fred, he has created a world. Like, that's why those videos were so good, is Lucas was enormously talented. He wasn't just creating this character, he was creating a world. There were all these sort of off-screen characters, and his mother and his friends and the bullies in his life. And it really was a story about a kid who's bullied and still like has a positive outlook in the world. And so I worked with, I met Lucas then, you know, we spent a little bit of time together. And then I worked with the producers trying to write a movie that was true to the videos, and because it was a great experience. Lucas is enormously talented. Parents hate the movie. Parents would tell me this is so annoying, but kids love that movie, and that's who I wrote it for. To hell with the parents. The kids love the movie.
I can agree that the kids did love the movie. My nephews loved the movie. I remember walking into my sister's house and it was on the TV, and she was distracting herself in any way possible. She was trying to play games on a tablet, on like I think she had like an iPad or a Samsung tablet or something. She was just trying to play games on this, but her two boys were sat glued to it. They loved it.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's a testimony. I was really trying to capture what Lucas had captured in his videos, and he understood. He understood. Kids loved Fred.
Mm. I mean, I was very much of that kind of generation where I kind of thought that I was almost too cool for it, looking back at it, just because it was like, oh, there's this massive high-pitched voice and I don't quite know what's going on. But then it was only maybe 5-6 years ago that I stumbled across Lucas's personal channel, and almost seeing the kind of creative mind behind that, you kind of have to at least take your hat off in a way to the craft that it must have taken to make something, even though, you know, it wasn't, I guess, appealing to every single demographic. In a way, it didn't really need to, because there was a subsection of people that absolutely loved it.
Like you say, 50 million people that absolutely loved it.
I mean, it's you know, that's the internet too, is like the internet, like, I mean, what you guys are doing, that you have people who follow and watch what you do, and like you can reach everybody, and you can find the people who share your sense of humor, point of view on things. And that was what Lucas did so well, is that through the internet. And it was so interesting, I talked to his mom. So Lucas was a kid when he did the movie, and so his mom was on the set every day with him, and I spent and she and I are about the same age, so I had more in common with his mom than I did with Lucas. But I talked to his mom, and she said, yeah, you know, he did this thing alone in his room, and my daughter, he has like 8 brothers and sisters, and my daughter, she was talking about how one of her daughters said, hey mom, you know, Lucas's video is like got 2 million views, and the mom was like, what video? Like, she had no idea that Lucas had done this thing and had been doing this thing alone in his room, and it really spoke to what a genius he is.
It is definitely the kind of YouTuber dream to kind of wake up to like millions of views. It is incredible. But I guess diving into the technical side of that movie, I think I either saw this on a previous interview that you'd done, or I read this online, but I believe that the Fred movie, at least the first one, was intended to be a cinematic release, but then it was sold to Nickelodeon. Did this impact behind the scenes at all?
No, you know, so the producer is a man named Ryan Robbins. He independently produced the movie, and he thought he would release it in theaters, and then when it was finished, I think he decided it would reach a bigger audience if he sold it to Nickelodeon. And I think he was right. I think independent movies, you know, can be a tough boulder to push up the hill to get people to see it. Nickelodeon has a built-in audience of kids. All you know, they aired it like 3 times the first week. I mean, it was on like a lot, and so a lot of people saw it, and that's what you want. You want people to see your work. So it didn't impact behind the scenes at all. The movie was finished when that decision was made.
That makes sense. And I suppose it's kind of a testament to your skill as a writer, having written for so many like formats, but it can also fit a cinematic release, home media release. But in terms of that kind of debate of writing for movies versus, I guess, limited series or television, would you say that you have a preference towards one or the other?
No, I mean, it's different. You know, in television in America, actually, it's true in the UK as well, that the writer has a lot more power in television than in movies. In movies, there are exceptions, but in general, you're hired to write a movie, and then they may hire another writer to rewrite you, and another writer to rewrite you. And in television, if it's your show, you have a lot of say in how it's done. And even if it's not your show, you're part of a team of writers who are helping determine the course of the show. So you can have a little more influence. Having said that, I'm very proud of the movie stuff that I've gotten to do. I have a new movie that I wrote that it's going to be on. I don't know. Do you guys get Paramount Plus where you are? Do you know what that is?
I think we do. The only thing we absolutely don't get over here is like HBO Max and all that stuff. That's the only thing that we really don't get.
So the Paramount Plus, it's going to be on there, and I wrote this movie. It's a high school movie, and and I had a great experience doing that. But most of my career is in television, and I enjoy that. I enjoy getting to write for television. I mean, I can't even think about what myself as a kid would think about the fact that that's my career. I'm very excited that I get to do that.
Yeah, it's great that, like you say, it's something that you as a child would like, dream about, and then you've got to it, which is absolutely incredible. A question that I had for you was, we understand you've worked with Brian Levan. What was that like? And also, did you get to see the adaptation that they did of the Scooby Doo franchise in 2009?
I didn't see to answer the second question first. I didn't see the Scooby Doo movie, but Brian hired me and Rick on a show called Babes, and then Brian became a kind of a mentor to me and Rick for many years. We did several projects with him, some that got made and some that didn't. But Brian is he was an enormously talented writer when we met him, and producer, and then he became a very big director, directing Flintstones movies and Beethoven and Are We There Yet? And he's a very talented, bigger than life person. He's very, very fun, and even now, as he's I think 70 years old and still full of energy and very so it was always very exciting. And he shared a lot of the interests that Rick and I had. That we talked with him. At some point, we were going to develop Archie, which is Riverdale. Do you guys get Riverdale there? So there was going to be an Archie movie. We talked to developing about that. We've done many projects with him, and he shared a lot of our interests. So that was a lot of fun to work with him.
Oh, it does sound a lot of fun. And I guess kind of I mentioned Scooby there, so sticking on that theme of questions now. Growing up, did you watch the Scooby Doo series? Did you have a Scooby Doo series that you liked, a movie?
Well, I'm going to be 60 this year. I am the first Scooby Doo generation. So Scooby Doo came on the air in 1969. I remember watching it. We had this thing called Saturday morning television. That was a big thing when I was growing up. What are the new cartoons that are going to be on Saturday morning? And getting up with your bowl of cereal in front of the television for 4 hours watching the new cartoons. And Scooby Doo was, I think it was on with this other show, The Perils of Penelope Pitstop, which has not stood the test of time. But I remember that show. I was 5 years old, and so I'm very proud of the fact that I was I'm the first Scooby Doo generation, TV generation. I love the show. It was that first series, I think, is in my mind the best. It sort of captured the whole the things they did after weren't bad. It's just there was something about that original series that I don't think that has ever been topped in terms of creating something really unique of this group of kids driving around in a van solving mysteries like that. Who came up with that? That was great.
I mean, I think we agree with you that we tend to go back to the earlier series a lot more than we do some of the newer movies, things like that. And I guess that being said, growing up or, working on Scooby or anything like that, did you develop a favorite character in the gang?
There's always something about Velma. Maybe it's the glasses. There was something about Velma. I don't know. I always thought I liked Velma. I can't tell you. I don't know why. I didn't. No one ever asked me that question, Millie. So I don't know that. So I'm giving you the first instinct answer, which was she was smart. She was kind of like unflappable. She didn't get scared. You know, she seemed to have a thing for Shaggy, who didn't seem to have a thing for her. But you know, I don't know the whole. Yeah, Velma.
That's good. And we certainly have a big Velma fan here, don't we, Rhianna?
I dressed up recently. Well, for last Halloween, I dressed up as Velma. She's like, I love Velma so much.
Do we have a picture? Do I have a picture? You have a picture of Rhianna you can put on the screen here for me to see?
Yeah, I can quickly get one up.
Wait, speaking about the original Scooby Doo Where Are You series as well, it's kind of like my interim. It's like it's actually Casey Kasem's. Well, it would have been Casey Kasem's birthday today, so that's kind of a little kind of intermission. Oh, there we go.
Sure
oh my God, Rhianna, that's awesome.
That is really good, Rhianna.
Good job.
Thank you. So I guess going more onto The Witch's Ghost, can you remember how you became the writer on Scooby Doo and The Witch's Ghost?
Well, Rick and I were doing all sorts of writing at that time, and Rick was, we were friends with an executive. Rick was one of Rick's best friends, named Linda Steiner, who worked at Warner Brothers, said that they were doing these Scooby Doo straight to video, and both Rick and I were big Scooby Doo fans. They had already done Zombie Island. They had already, I think, decided that they wanted it to be like Zombie Island, where the monster was real. I'm pretty sure that came to us because I had a problem with that, honestly. I think one of the magic things of Scooby Doo is that the kids always show these supernatural things are not real. And I think that's one of the enduring things about Scooby Doo is that kids, get to the truth, and the truth is never ghosts, it's never vampires, it's a bad guy trying to take advantage of somebody's superstitions, which I think is a great message. That unfortunately was not the message of Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost. So, again, they pay you to do something, you do it. But I was happy to do Scooby Doo. They brought us in. I don't remember what they gave us. I remember that Rick wanted. Again, this is like a thing about our partnership and where we were. We'd been working together for about 10 years at this point, and we trusted each other. And Rick was, the expression is a bull in a china shop. He was like, he was so go on this project. And I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go. Let me help. Whatever I can do to help. So I remember he was really into the Wiccans thing. Like he wanted to do almost a twist on witches being sort of like positive, that Wiccan culture is a positive thing. It's about the earth, and I remember that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, let's do that. And then the Stephen King thing, the sort of Stephen King character, I remember was Rick's idea because he's from Maine and he had a real connection there. And then we worked out the mystery, and we both love mysteries. And I think one of the things I'm proud of the movie that I remember being proud of is that it had a lot of twists and turns in it, that you can write something that's for kids, but you don't have to write down to kids. You can keep them, you can write things that have a mystery, and the kids will follow the mystery as long as it doesn't get too violent or too. So I was proud of that. I feel like we did a really good mystery together. And then Rick, the Hex Girls. That's all Rick. I think I joked on Twitter when somebody tweeted about us about the Hex Girls, the anniversary of the Hex Girls, and my contribution to the Hex Girls, I think, was yeah, sounds good, Rick. Like that. It was he was so excited about this band and the name, the Hex Girls, which is a great name. And I added some little details to it, but it's almost all Rick and his excitement to do sort of a Josie and the Pussycats kind of thing in Scooby Doo was kind of, that was, I just if I had anything to do with it, my credit is this much. Most of it is, and again, you know, who knew that they would stand the test of time? But so we worked out that thing. We wrote the script, and then I remember we turned it in, and then Davis Doy did a rewrite on it. I found, like, you know, I found something while I was getting ready for this podcast. It's a file. It just says Scooby.script, and it's from that time. And I can't open it because I'm on Mac now, and this was when I was on Microsoft. So if you guys have Windows computers, I'll send it to you. If you can figure out a way to open it, maybe you'll tell me what it is. It's in a script writing software that doesn't exist anymore. So that's the other thing too. Like, so I don't know. But if you have any computer friends who can help you with that, I'll send it to you. And it might be our first draft. So I don't know, but you might be interested in that. So
wow.
Yeah, that's incredible. Wow.
I mean, that is amazing.
It might not be our first draft. I don't know what it is.
We can find out.
That's a mystery, isn't it? We can
is
solve
a
a mystery all around.
I mean,
thank you so much.
Also, as you were speaking there was something that I wanted to ask you about that kind of came to mind, because Witch's Ghost was honestly the only Scooby Doo DVD I owned when I was little. It was one my brother had got for me, because my mum, she grew up where she didn't watch animated anything. So it was a case of I relied on my brother, who's about 10 years older than me, to kind of provide the animated things, and they got me The Witch's Ghost. And you said that one thing you liked was the unmaskings, and The Witch's Ghost caters to everybody, the people that likes the unmaskings and the ones that likes the real ghosts. So was that something you wanted to contribute? Like, was it one of your ideas pitching that initial unmasking?
I think that I don't know. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, before you all were born. I do know that whenever I write anything, and Rick is the same way, involving a mystery, we want a mystery. We don't want the audience ahead of it. That was something Rick and I, we were, you know, Rick writes mysteries now, books, you know, that's the genre, is that you want people to be surprised, you don't want them to see it coming. I think that's a really important, that was what was so good about the original show too. You didn't know who the bad guy was when you watched those episodes. So I think that was important to us. So I know that if that was not our pitch, I think it probably was, that our pitch to have the unmasking and then reveal the real ghost. I'm pretty sure that would have been us trying to fool the audience. Even if that wasn't our idea, the execution of it was making that twist work. That was definitely ours. That was definitely what we contributed, making the mystery work.
Yeah, I mean, it did work so well. I have to admit that, like, watching this movie, it's almost like if it had finished there, it would have been an episode, and it'd have been an episode that you loved. There was the unmasking, and it was done, and then what makes it a movie is that it takes it that step further. Like you say, it adds that twist, it adds that turn, and it honestly it was always, I think, my favorite Scooby movie because of those twists and turns. It was so entertaining, so it was done really well.
One thing I do know I contributed, which the character Forrest, right? There's a kid named Forrest in there. So at the time, my sister had a friend who had a kid, and she named her kid Forrest, and I thought, what a terrible name to name your kid. And I told Rick, and it's like, let's name him Forrest, like, because in our draft, I think Forrest was even a more annoying character than he was in the final. And so that I'm sure of. I remember Forrest. I've never told Forrest, who's now a full-on adult. He's, you know, he was born in 1997. So how old is he now? He's 25, 26, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever met him, actually. But
he's got an entire character dedicated to him. He doesn't
I couldn't tell him, you know, we named him after you because we hated your name. So
a little like side note, there was this video where people found real names but were really weird. There was someone called Forrest, but it was spelt with 4 S's and then a T. And that just like made me remember that. It's like,
that's
it
hilarious.
was spelled like Forrest, or was it like 4 S's and a T?
No, yeah, you only need the 1 S. Yeah.
So you mentioned a bit about like the writing that you did for this movie. How did it work with combining the writing of Rick Copp and David Story?
Well, again, like what I said was Rick and I worked out the story together. So we figured out, all right, what's going to happen in this movie? Like, what are the twists? What are the turns? And we sort of, you lay that out very methodically. And then in this case, Rick wrote the draft of the script because I was writing another animated movie that we were working on. And so we split up. He wrote the draft of that. I wrote the draft of the movie. But in both cases, he worked with me on the movie, figuring out what was going to happen in that movie. And we pitched on jokes, and then he gave me his draft, and I made some suggestions, or we changed some stuff together. Not very much. I mean, his draft was pretty close to. I do remember Rick had a whole thing in there about at the beginning, which they cut, which I loved, which was they were in England and somebody was trying to steal the crown jewels, I think. And I think that was in Rick's draft, which was really good. We turned it in, and I think it was Davis. So then Davis was the producer of the movie, and he rewrote us. So he took our script and kept much of it, but made some changes to it. And the final draft was the script that he wrote. So it was really, we didn't really work with Davis on the writing. We gave him our script, and then he rewrote it. Yeah, that crown jewels thing is sort of sticking in my head. It was kind of a big set piece that got cut. I don't remember why.
I think, I maybe imagine, I think Rick may have mentioned that in the interview as well.
Is that right?
It would have been really cool to see that. And
well, it might be in the secret document I have. So
we'll have to see.
Oh, we can literally say now, it looks like we've got another mystery on our hands. So you've written for characters that have been pre-established and the original characters as well. So what were some of the differences in your process for writing for characters with such a expansive pre-established fandom?
That's a very good question. I mean, it helps if you're already a fan. So writing Scooby Doo, you know, we wanted the characters to sound like they sound in our heads from having watched it our whole lives. So that's a really, you have an internal sense, but there are a couple of jokes in there that are like Scooby, like not even realizing he's a dog. Remember that joke in that, you know?
Yeah, the kind of dog were.
That was Rick's joke. And that's a memorable, I think a really memorable joke, because it's taking a little bit of a liberty with what's been established. But for the most part, when you're doing that, you're already a fan. If you're already a fan, you don't want to do anything that you as a fan would like. And so that's really an important thing, is having that respect, having that kind of respect when you're working on something that has an established fan base. You're part of that fan base, so it's really important that you pay homage to it. And so I think that's the difference. In both cases, the things that it share, whether you're writing for unestablished characters or characters with an established fan base, is you want them to have an internal consistency and life of their own. You want them to feel as real as they can be in the medium that you're doing, and really invest with care in your writing.
And do you remember how long the kind of writing process took for the movie?
We did it pretty quickly. I think Rick and I probably worked on the story for a couple of weeks, figuring out the story, a week or two. We probably had to get the approval of the studio in terms of what we wanted to do. They probably gave us some notes, and then we had to write the draft. And I think Rick wrote that draft pretty fast, in a week or two. I mean, which is fast. I don't remember exactly, but it didn't take long.
No, that's fantastic.
That's impressive.
And you touched upon, say, some of the things that maybe Rick had written, for example, the crown jewels scene that was kind of cut out of the movie for whatever reason. But do you remember at all if there was anything that you had proposed for the movie or that you'd written for the movie that didn't make it?
I don't. I think our take on the Stephen King character was scarier than he ends up being in the movie, but I don't remember how. That sort of left me. I'll be honest, I haven't watched the movie in a very long time, but I do remember we wanted to make that guy scarier, I think. I don't remember, but yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I had taken notes. I didn't know. I didn't know there was going to be this podcast, let alone an internet. There was no internet then.
No, I mean that's very fair, because I was even just kind of lamenting on interviews today, and I'd forgotten something very like ridiculous, like something that had happened last week, and so my hat goes off to like the people that we speak to when we're literally asking them questions about stuff that happened 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and I'm like, I should really start to remember.
I think it's 25 years ago.
Yeah, I think Witch's Ghost maybe 1999. Maybe 2000, a long time ago.
You wrote it. I think we wrote it in '98.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because the animation process takes a long time.
Yeah.
So the script was done in 1998, I think.
That's incredible. And I guess working throughout the movie, was there ever any like crossover between you meeting anyone that was in like the cast, or maybe like Mary Kay Bergman or anyone like that?
No, the recording of the cast that happened, we weren't around for that. So.
Do you have any favorite memories from working on The Witch's Ghost? Did you get to go and revisit some shows that you particularly enjoyed rewatching?
I think they gave us all the original Scooby Doos on videotape. That's how you watched it, and we got this stack of videotapes that we got to watch again, because again, you know, that this is before the internet, before you could stream anything, before you could find it on YouTube. You were, you know, stuck with your video cassette recorder, and so we had this stack of Scooby Doo tapes. So that was a lot of fun. I think for me, honestly, the fun of it happened later. So I had a son. My son was born in 1996, and then my daughter was born in 1999. And when they became you know, when they were about 7 or 8, they started watching Scooby Doo and Witch's Ghost, and their friends all watched it, and that was cool. That's probably my fondest memory of like that. Suddenly, kids were watching this thing I'd written and loving it, and then their parents would see my name on the carton, and it's like, you wrote this, you know, because even some of the parents liked Witch's Ghost, which, you know, wasn't like the Fred movies. They liked Witch's Ghost, and so that was probably, that was exciting, you know. And then just in general, you know, as a kid, I'm 5 years old and watching Scooby Doo like every other 5-year-old. In fact, that I then got to write Scooby Doo. That's cool.
It certainly is. And like you're saying that some, you know, what some of it was once the children had grown up further. It wasn't that this was just a movie the year it was out. It stood the test of time, and it's still a very loved movie. You know, even in the UK, you can go into DVD stores and you can still pick up The Witch's Ghost.
Right.
But
Right.
there's Scooby movies that were released 10 years ago that you can struggle to get. I think there's one called The Mystery Map that I believe they don't make on DVD anymore. You have to kind of find a used copy of it. And yet The Witch's Ghost is still called back to so many times. It's still so readily available. Did you think that it would have this level of success? Because I mean, it's not just that Scooby's still a name, it's this movie in particular, I'd say.
Well, that's very nice, Millie. I mean, it's making somebody money, which is why they still make DVDs. So that means that people are still interested in buying it. No, of course I had no idea that I certainly, that whole thing that happened with the Hex Girls sort of blowing up, complete shock. I was shocked when I don't know, the last couple of years somehow I was on, somebody tweeted about it, and I had no idea that it was such a meaningful thing in the gay community, and that was very meaningful. That we did something that spoke to people who felt like they were on the outside. I think so. No idea. No, and I do take the compliment. I think that the work that Rick and I did on the movie helped elevate it, helped make it maybe better than it needed to be, I guess is the way I would put it.
It certainly was really well written, like you say. That's all thanks to you and Rick. And the Hex Girls, like, I think within the last 2 years, there's been a backpack made that was the Hex Girls. Within the last year, they've released a set of Funko Pop figures that's the 3 Hex Girls. We've got them somewhere behind us. I think we'll find them to show you at the end of the video. But like, they are still releasing things that's, like merchandise associated to them now. So
Rick and I pitched, I remember after that, we pitched a TV series around the Hex Girls, and we couldn't sell it, but they were going to be singing and on tour, but also hunting for these magical objects. And I don't remember anything else about our pitch, but we went in to pitch to the same people who made Witch's Ghost, because we thought, again, Rick was the guy leading the charge in this, but it would have been a very fun project to do, like the Hex Girls sort of on this mission to gather up these evil magical objects.
That would have been amazing, and certainly something that we would like. I think we were discussing in another one of our podcasts that, if it was something like Warner Brothers did the equivalent of a Disney Plus and released mini-series for different characters, the Hex Girls would be the first ones to get one for Scooby, because they are the characters that still resonate with everybody the most. And I guess speaking of kind of follow-up things, Warner Brothers recently released a sequel to Zombie Island. If you were approached about a sequel to The Witch's Ghost, is it something you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah, probably. It's interesting. This is not going to be of interest to anybody on your podcast, but I have to. But animation is as writers in animation don't often get the credit or the money they deserve because of a union issue. And the problem with me that I wouldn't be able to do it is probably because of that. Like, I'm a member of the Writers Guild of America West. I was president until pretty recently of that union. A lot of animation is done under a different union's contract. It should be done under the Writers Guild contract. Some of it is, like, so working at Family Guy, where I worked, was under that contract. So even though I would be interested in doing that Scooby Doo, I probably wouldn't do it for that reason, which is sad. But that's a business reason that nobody's going to be interested. I'm sorry I wasted your time.
No, I mean, it's very interesting. And I was kind of horrified when we were speaking to Rick, and we were just like lamenting on how the Hex Girls have literally appeared in the most recent Scooby show to this day, all the merchandise. And it's kind of like, if it was set up in a way where literally the creators of the Hex Girls characters were given a percentage of that, I would say you could pretty much co-own together the whole of the United Kingdom, because the Hex Girls are so immensely popular.
Yeah. I mean,
well, that's the difference in the contract. Like, if it had been covered under my union's contract, that we would have gotten some remuneration, which we haven't gotten because of that issue. So,
I mean, the Hex Girls have made other Scooby Doo movies popular, like they were in Legend of the Vampire, and I'd attribute a lot of its popularity to the Hex Girls being there, because the first scene we see them in, they're on stage singing, and it's just, okay, this movie got good now because that's the Hex Girls, that's the songs we love.
Wow.
And like JayBee says, it all comes back to what you and Rick wrote. So
wow. Yeah, it would be great to see them make use of them. They were fun characters, and I'd love to see somebody do something with them.
Yeah. I guess before we go on to the last 3 questions, I just want to say a huge thank you to you, and we thanked Rick before in the interview, because this movie means so much to so many people. And I remember watching it with my old dog Diesel, and it sounds so weird like introducing a dog to it, but even with like my 3 dogs that I've got now, as soon as I turn a Scooby Doo movie on, they'll sit on the sofa and watch it with me. And Tatty, she gets lost in some TV shows. She'll just stand and like watch it. But as soon as The Witch's Ghost is on, she'll lay on my lap and she'll be focused, and she won't sleep. She'll just like sit and watch it. And it means so much to me, this movie, because I've got so many happy memories watching it. So thank you for helping, bring it to
that's
life.
so sweet. Well, that really touched me. Thank you so much. Did you say your dog's name was Diesel?
Yeah, our old dog Diesel. He was a rescue dog.
It's funny. I've named 2 characters and that name Diesel it's the Fred sequel. There's a character named Diesel, and this movie I just wrote, there's a character named Diesel. I love that name.
That's so big.
I didn't know your dog was named Diesel, but that's very touching. I'm so glad that the movie has such resonance for you.
Thank you. And so going on to the final 3 questions, were there any talks of you to write possibly a Scooby Doo movie after The Witch's Ghost?
I don't think so, but it's funny. About 2 years ago, I pitched to Warner Brothers a live action Scooby Doo series that would be sort of and they didn't buy it. But I was still like, there's something here, and I thought you could do a Scooby Doo show in the style of Riverdale, that maybe had a sort of a darker twist. That the mystery of it is that you would do Scooby Doo, who, if you remember, has the collar that says SD on it. And I had a dark twist, that SD didn't stand for Scooby Doo; it stood for something else, and that was kind of the mystery of where this talking dog came from. And I couldn't sell them on my idea, but I had a lot of fun coming up with the pitch.
I mean, I think it's fair to say you could definitely have sold us on that idea, because I think
they're literally premiering a fan film like that today. Like, some people in the community have raised enough money to kind of do a fan project, a bit like Riverdale Scooby, that's coming out.
Yeah. But I think we've always said there's lots of origin stories for Scooby, but it all just starts with Scooby find Shaggy. You never find out, like you say, what Scooby was before, what the SD ever meant, because that collar's there when they meet in a lot of the adaptation. So I really like that.
Yeah, it would have been. It was dark, but it was fun, and I would have loved to do it. Warner Brothers is looking to develop Scooby Doo live action, but they haven't figured out how they want to do it. Yeah.
There's certainly a lot they can do. I mean, they've done Lego adaptations of them for movies, and they've done live action for movies, but a live action series I think would definitely make a lot of sense to
I think so
different to try. So I hope to see it soon. I do.
So I guess going more into the future, are there any projects that are upcoming that you can tell us about?
Well, there's this movie Honor Society, which will be on Paramount Plus at the end of July, which I'm very excited about, and I think it's not. It's a little more adult than Scooby Doo, but it's a fun movie, funny with a sort of emotional center, and I was one of the executive producers and writers on the Orville, which is a science fiction show. The third season's premiering in the US June 2nd. I think somewhere in the UK it must be as well, maybe on Sky or something. And it's a great season. A lot of great, really great episodes. I've written I've written a comic book that's going to come out next year called Space Job, which is a fun sci-fi thing that I wrote. And then trying a bunch of other things. We'll see what happens with them.
I can assure you that we'll definitely be keeping an eye out and make sure to watch like the movie. I already watched the Orville because it's so much fun to watch. So we can't wait for all of that. And where's the best place for people to keep up to date with your work?
That's probably where I sort of fall short. I don't make it easy for people to keep up to date with my work. So sorry, Rhianna. I have a Twitter account, but I just post jokes. So I probably should try a little harder to create a space for people to keep up with my work. You asking me that question has now made me, I'm going to get off this call and I'm going to do something. I'm going to create some website somewhere so that people can keep up with my work. Because you're right, they should be able to. Well, maybe you weren't saying that, but that's how I'm taking it. So.
I mean, no, that is absolutely fantastic. I guess we can always leave your, your Twitter account in the show notes for people to discover, because obviously jokes are always a good thing to wake up to and go to sleep to, and anything in between. So that is fantastic. And I guess that wraps up all the questions that we have for you today. And I guess, from all of us, I just want to say thank you for all the time you've taken to speak with us today, because you've been very generous with the time you've given us, and we appreciate it so much.
Well, it was great talking to you guys. I'm really touched at how into this you were, and it was great talking to you. I'm happy to talk to you again at any other time.
Thank you so much. That is absolutely amazing. And I guess huge thank you to everyone watching this. This has been another episode on the JayBee and Millie channel. You can get, of course, Rhianna's social links in the description down below as well. Please make sure to check them out, along with all of David's social media links, all in the description. So everything's going to be down there. Should be linked out, formatted fine, but we'll see, fingers crossed. So yeah, I guess please like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee and Millie, and we'll see you next time.